Dude, get in the mech.
No.
Get in the mech.
No.
Get in the mech, dude.
Okay.
I'm the person who has seen this show before.
I'm a person who's never watched an anime.
HiroBabble, we are HiroBabble. HiroBabble, we are HiroBabble. Hey, hello and welcome back to the HiroBabble podcast. Today's episode is episode 8, Asuka Strikes. And honestly, I know we made mention of it last episode, but thanks so much for tuning in and checking out today's episode. We're happy to have you here. Again, if you have thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, send us an email, HiroBabble@gmail.com. Or leave us a comment on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or, again, if you're listening on Spotify, keep it to yourself. No, I'm just kidding. If you have a comment and you want to leave it.
Is there an option to leave comments on Spotify?
No. You can only listen.
Oh, come on. But you can share.
You can share. And honestly, if you guys want to throw us on your Instagram story,
yeah,
feel free, you know? Anyways, if that's your prerogative, we thank you for it. But yeah, let's just go ahead and jump into this episode because... oh boy, is it jam-packed. We get a new Ava pilot, new Ava suit, and a crotchety old man on a battleship.
First thing that comes to my mind when I watched this episode was Dual Dragonoid.
Ooh.
Because that red and yellow suit kind of matched Dual Dragonoid's color scheme. And I'm thinking to myself...
You're talking about from Bakugan.
Right.
Yep.
Specifically the video game.
Yeah.
I've never actually watched Bakugan.
And for anyone at home who's a Bakugan fan, we're not talking about Defenders of the Core. We're talking about Bakugan Battle Brawlers. Top tier game. We played that in high school probably like a good, 60 hours?
We probably have more hours on that game than anybody else that bought that game.
Yeah. And we wear that badge of honor with pride.
It's a good game. I'll die on that cross.
It's a really good game. Very fun, addicting gameplay, and you can create your own character.
Right. Let us know if you guys want us to play it on the channel.
Yeah, we'll do a Let's Play series. Yeah, we're actually starting a second YouTube channel, our gaming channel. That's where we'll do Let's Plays. I'm just kidding.
No.
But
I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work.
But if you guys want it, say less.
Yeah.
So, okay. Outside of your initial thoughts that it looks like Dual Dragonoid, initial snapshot, newcomer to this series, what are your thoughts on this episode?
New character. Didn't expect that.
Yeah. 8 episodes in.
I didn't think when they mentioned last episode that, they're getting a new pilot and stuff from Germany. Like, you kind of knew that at some point this might be a factor, but
yeah,
I figured this would be, like, endgame.
Totally.
And I didn't think that, like, next episode, boom, new pilot, another hot chick to add to the roster.
And a real firecracker.
Exactly.
Because she's a redhead.
She's a redhead.
She's a redhead.
No, dude, she's cool. I mean, I have a lot of first impressions of her. You see her pretty fast in the episode.
Yeah, the episode opens with that helicopter scene, and I wrote in my notes, thank God for Kensuke just kind of being I know a lot about military stuff. We're in a Jet Viper helicopter dual Mark II.
Right.
And he just is kind of word vomiting.
Yeah.
But it's also nice because for him it makes sense and it never feels forced.
No.
And you, as the viewer, learn about what this is. So it's very cool. And I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, thank God for this dude. Because I would just go helicopter. And that'd be fine.
Yep.
But... as with this show, the little details are just very nice.
This episode is his wet dream.
Oh,
is just... all the ships and planes and helicopters and angels and Evangelions, and he could not be happier.
And it's also Toji's wet dream.
Right. Right, until it isn't. Yeah. Toji's arc in just the first, 3 minutes of this episode, the ups and downs are real for this guy.
Just... because it basically cuts to Misato saying, oh, I just figured I'd take you guys out on like a fun little day trip.
Right, like you guys are stuck in Tokyo 3, like, you know, in your bunkers too long. Let's get out on the town, you know?
Yeah.
We're going on a boat cruise in the Pacific Ocean. So they're thinking like, cool, I brought my hat, you know? And then the cruise is an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a fun little, you know, we gonna party.
Exactly.
Hey-oh. But it's just...
Yeah.
And it's funny, too, because looking at that aircraft carrier, it looks like a relic.
Yeah.
Given everything you see in this show, you're like, an aircraft carrier?
Right. Toji says it's, or not Toji, I just call him Reporter Kid. I've never bothered. Kensuke. He says, man, that aircraft carrier is that's a pre-Second Impact vintage aircraft carrier. And I'm like, so what is that, like 1999?
Probably.
Like that, yeah. Like pretty much when this show aired, that was like the state of the art, you know, aircraft carrier. That's just funny.
Well, yeah, well, and so they're flying to this aircraft carrier, and Misato's talking to the boys in the back, and Toji makes this comment where he goes, "You like my hat? I just bought it today.
Right.
This is now my favorite hat.
Yeah.
Well, I love this hat."
What happens is Misato, like, you know, probably intentional.
Yeah.
She mentions that, you know, it's like a date.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
like, she doesn't say it in that way, but she's like, you know, it's kind of like our little lunch date. And he's like, oh, it's a date? Hi.
Turns the baseball hat around.
Well, I just happened to buy this hat for you for our date. And, yeah. She doesn't even, like, pay any mind to it. She's like, okay.
All right. So they land, and you already... I can't remember when it cuts, but doesn't it cut to the captain and his, like, first mate in the carrier, and they're like, these nerve brats and all this, wanting us to carry these toys of theirs, or, you know.
See, the Navy guys, the UN Navy guys, they have this whole arc that they are like, that NERV is just this organization that's belittling the military, and their worth is nothing anymore because the most important thing are these Evangelion units, and now their firepower doesn't matter. And so
they went from being top of the totem pole to the bottom.
Right. They want to swing big dick.
And they can't.
Like, yeah.
They can't because they're useless.
Meet their match with Misato.
Yeah, Misato. It's very funny because when she first, they meet Asuka before she goes.
As they get off, they're kind of like stretching. It starts playing like kind of some country western. Music.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is odd.
This is your backing track,
right? Oh, my hat's flying away! Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh, Toji with his hat, and then he runs right into Asuka, who stomps on it, and then just beats the shit out of the three dudes, and like, because what does she say? Well, looking costs you.
Well, yeah. So okay, so
or am I getting ahead of myself?
No. So she stomps on the hat. He's pissed about the hat, and what happens is the wind blows. She's like, "Hey, Misato," the wind blows, and her
that's right,
flies
yes.
up, and he looks directly at her, and so then she slaps the shit out of him, and then she's like, "Yeah, well, looking a costume."
Well, but she also punches Kensuke and Shinji too.
She didn't in what I watched.
Really?
Yeah, she didn't on Netflix.
I could have sworn she beats the shit out of the three of them, and then goes, "Looking costs you," and then I wrote this line down. Toji goes, "Overpriced, but that's all right."
So wait, so does Toji pull his pants down in your version?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Toji, and then he goes, "That's all right," and then drops his pants, and then Asuka's like, "What?"
I know, slaps the shit out of him again. Can you imagine how embarrassed you'd be if you were Misato or Shinji and you just brought your buddies on this ship
and
here you're meeting
himself.
like your new pilot?
Yeah.
So she's like, okay, so is this asshole's not the pilot, obviously. So who's the third pilot?
But then Misato goes, "Hi, Asuka," and she's like, "Hey, Misato," and it's very the introduction of Asuka talking to Misato is something that I don't know if you picked up on, but she says hi, and then she goes, See, look, I filled out a little bit more. And to initiate, like, hey, good to see you, Misato. Like, look at me. Like, look how I've, haven't I grown? Kind of, there's two things. Seeking that approval, but also really talking about this, like, look at how, like, look at me. And I want you, with this character, to remember those two facets.
No, yeah, I definitely picked up on that.
Yeah, approval and all eyes on me.
Yes, she wants all the attention. Misato says, man, like, they immediately, you can tell from their dialogue that they have a rapport. Like, they've known each other before.
They're buddies.
But it was a while ago, and Masato's like, well, you're certainly taller. And the line in my dub, verbatim, was, other parts of me have bloomed as well.
Oh, yeah.
That was really
That is
weird.
A weird choice. Mine was just like, yeah, and I filled out a little bit more too, which isn't better because they're 14.
They're both weird. I know. My wife walked in while...
But the blossoming one is really like... feels very old-timey.
I know. Yeah, my wife walked in and she's like, what are you... like, where are you in the show? And I was like, they're 14. And like, yeah. I didn't know what else to say.
I don't know what you could say. Yeah.
That line stuck out to me as like, I could have chosen better wording than other parts of me have blossomed too.
Yeah, that is a weird call.
So, yeah.
Netflix dub strikes again.
Yep, first impression of her, though, is that she's a badass and she doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, and it is cool, though, because she then asks Misato, who's the second pilot? Right, the one I've been hearing all about.
Yeah.
And Misato goes, oh, it's Shinji. 40% synchronization rate on, like, his first, like, time using a mech. And she goes, It's not like cool or anything.
I know.
Bitch.
You can tell that she's looking at him like, oh, this guy's a fucking weakling. I got it made. And then, like, they're like, yeah, he has the highest synchronization rate ever. And it was on his first time. And that just, like, set her on this...
Yeah, she's like, well, I'll show him.
Right.
Well, and so then that's when it cuts to them talking to the crotchety old dudes piloting the...
Yeah.
Piloting the battleship, air carrier.
Aircraft carrier. Whatever it is in 2015 futuristic.
Pick your poison. But Misato, you can just tell, is so restrained in talking to these dudes. Because everything she says... So if you could just sign this transfer paperwork, we'll sign it when we get to the land. And she's like, why? Because the water's our domain. And like her face starts to twitch a little bit. And then we get my boy Kaji.
Dude,
what an absolute Chad. God.
He is a Chad.
He is the epitome of a Chad. But just, he's got this big dick energy.
Yeah, he does.
And he is throwing it around like nobody's business. Because it cuts to him and Asuka talking like on the balcony.
Yep.
And we talked about it, but like his synchronization rate, that's where she learns all of that. Kaji's like, yeah, 40% synchronization rate, and it was his first time using his mech. And she goes, what? And then he's like, yeah, kid's a bit of a prodigy. And Kaji, I think, has a really good insight into how Asuka works. Yeah. So he's really just throwing paper on the fire and is like, oh, yeah, this is good.
It's clear immediately that not only Asuka and Kaji have a rapport, but Kaji and Misato also have some history.
Oh, they've got history. Because then it cuts to them in the mess hall. And he goes, so Shinji, you're rooming with Misato. And he goes, yeah. She's still crazy in bed.
Yeah, pretty much.
And for the first time...
Is that the exact thing that he says?
That's what he says in my dub.
See, they aren't as... It's like they'll say gross shit like, other parts of me have bloomed as well.
Oh,
but then they're afraid to say things like that. So, like, in my version, he said, does she still do that thing when she sleeps?
What?
Yeah. And everybody goes, wow. And I'm like...
Yeah, and that's also so weird because why would Misato freak out about that?
And why would Shinji know or care?
Yeah, but... Wow, dude.
But your version insinuates that he slept with her before.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why they would all freak out.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you noticed, too, he's playing footsies with her under the table.
He is, and then
he's
she kind of stops when he says that, yeah.
But, yeah, the Misato freaking out, it's the first time you see her really...
like, embarrassed.
Break composure. And she's like, well, what's that supposed to mean? And he's like, hell if I know.
I've been with so many others, they start to blend together.
And that scene is great because you see Misato just really kind of, idiot.
It's kind of a cool dynamic in the group because Reporter Kid and Toji are like super jealous.
Yeah.
That this guy's been with their girl. Shinji's like just really surprised, like, cause he just didn't know that she was doing that.
Yeah.
And then Asuka is like really jealous of Misato that she got to be with Kaji.
Yeah.
Cause she kind of seems like she wants to be in his pants.
Yeah. Or more so just kind of wants to be an adult. I don't know.
Sure.
Kind
But
of
like everybody had like intertwining reasons for being.
And then Kaji's just like,
hey,
ain't nothing but a thing, baby.
When your name's Chad, you get away with a lot.
Well, and so then they, this is when Asuka then pulls Shinji away and is like, come check this out, nerd, or like, idiot. And it's basically her showing him Eva 2.
Yeah.
Which one? Red looks dope as hell. And Shinji goes, wow, I like the paint job.
Yeah. Just super subtle, nice comment.
Yeah, like she's really trying to make him jealous and he goes, yeah, this is nice.
Is it gloss?
Yeah. Matte finish?
Nice.
Cool. Well, and so she's grandstanding and makes this comment, which is honestly some interesting info. But she goes, Eva 0 was the prototype, Eva 1 was the test type, and Eva 2 is the final form.
Right. Like, you're a test pilot, but I'm the real thing.
Yeah. And as luck would have it, we're going to get to see a little bit of some combat prowess in action because, wouldn't you know, an angel comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's playing Battleship very well.
I know.
Actually. Pretty
tough
good.
opponent.
Yeah.
What's cool, in my opinion, about that is you immediately see the difference between Shinji and Asuka.
Yeah.
Asuka's like, let's get in the mech, let's beat this thing.
Yep.
So that I can, like, prove my dominance, kind of. Shinji's kind of like, well, we should probably ask Misato just to make sure that it's okay.
Yeah, and then Asuka goes, I'll ask after. Or, like, I'll get permission when I'm done, Right.
And Misato kind of responds well that she's just getting in the mech.
Yeah. Like, that's, for Misato, she's like, probably fucking finally.
Yeah. The sailors and Misato are kind of fighting over the microphone to the rest of the ships because the sailor guys are like, well, it's in the ocean, it's us. And Misato's kind of like, yeah, but we're in combat, so technically it's me.
Yeah. Well, and also they're just kind of like freaking out. Well, regular weapons aren't doing anything. And Misato's like, I fucking told you.
Yeah, no shit, bud.
Yeah, well, and then Kaji is just watching all of these battleships blow up and he goes, well, it looks like Asuka's going to probably have to do something. Yeah. Just another day on the job.
Yep. Let's talk for a second about Kaji, because in the middle of this kind of scrum of a million things happening with the new angel, he gets a phone call from, I took it as Gendo. Yeah. It sounded like Gendo.
That was my guess.
So he gets a phone call from Gendo, basically telling him, like, hey, like, if shit's hitting the fan, then
you gotta go.
Get out of there.
Yeah.
And so he comes up with this, way to get the hell out of there later in the episode.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's really interesting, too, because it just ties back to episode 7, giving us those breadcrumbs of what's happening behind the scenes here. And, it's obvious that Kaji, Ritsuko, like other kind of these high members of NERV, they're all in on it, but it really begs the question of... it really just begs the question of what exactly is happening, Right. Like, what does he need to... And we find out what he needs to get out of there with, but...
I know. And thank God you did it, because otherwise, like, the plot just would have... At this point in the episode, the plot had just continued to thicken, like, oh, here's another player in this deep game that I have no idea what's happening.
Mm-hmm. But, so then it cuts to Asuka throwing on her plug suit.
Yep.
And giving Shinji her spare, which is just very funny because it's a funny little commentary on how those suits are designed and how they're accented.
Yeah.
Like, on Asuka's chest, the, spot where the boobs would be is accented to kind of fit that.
She kind of has, like, some, like, plating there or something.
Yeah, whereas Shinji's, his purple suit is very, like, kind of fitted for a dude. And so, when Shinji puts it on, he's, like, covering his private parts because I think his suit has a little bit more of a endowment.
A little more wiggle room.
Yeah. But so then it cuts to them going into Ava 2, and I translated the German. So that's something to keep in mind, too. If you're watching the sub, I actually don't know if I've ever given it a listen to see if they stick to the German, but in this one, in German, Asuka says, access LCL, start sequence, confirmed. Start the nerve connection, confirmed. Start the heart monitor, next, confirmed. Start synchronization now. That's what she says in the beginning.
Sure.
And then that's when she goes, Shinji, you're giving me, like, thought distraction. And he's like, schnitzel? Bratwurst?
I know.
Which I love, because that's all he knows that's German. But then Asuka's able to get it figured out, initiates the startup sequence right as the Angel is barreling towards their ship. So, I mean, perfect timing.
Yep.
I also really love the look of the tarp. It looks like a cloak. Kind of like a...
Yeah.
I am Batman.
Yeah. No, it totally does. It looks awesome.
But just immediately followed by the startup sequence, let's play hopscotch as she's jumping on top of battleship to aircraft carrier to battleship, and it is
fully
just
manned battleships being sunk by her stepping on them.
Yeah, and it's just it's just so funny that that's the plan, because given the context, Asuka can't fight underwater because the armor that she has equipped isn't, like, prepared for that. So the whole thing is, don't fall in the water.
Right.
Which,
yeah.
Spoiler,
it
does happen.
In my version, she says, all right, we gotta fly. And Shinji says, fly? And then she jumps, and I was like, oh shit, her unit can fly. Like, it has like a jet on the back. So then when it started just landing on ships, I'm like, oh my god, she's out of control.
Yeah, interesting. I think I like hopscotch more, because that...
Yeah, it's better. It actually makes sense.
That really plays to her personality, too, where she's like, whatever. And then, she pulls out the knife and is like, oh, it's go time. We're gonna fuck up this manta ray looking ass.
Yeah, it is like a weird manta ray whale looking thing with teeth.
Yeah. And so, Asuka kind of makes her last stand, gets ready to take on this, weird angel, and just immediately gets chomped. Well, not chomped, just kind of gets bum rushed and has to force it basically, like, off the deck. But then, as I'm sure, anyone watching this for the first time when they're like, don't fall in the water. The water is it's a guarantee. They're on ships. But then I love this line because Misato goes, you can't fight in water. Or maybe it's Shinji and she goes, well, it's a good time to find out. and after hanging on to the angel and getting shaken off, just kind of hovers there and is like, why can't I move? And then Shinji goes, because we don't have the armor to fight in water. And she goes, huh.
Right.
Well, okay. We might be fucked.
There's a line that Misato has, I guess, just right before the main fight starts, where the angel is swimming around and attacking ships.
Yeah.
And she says, I wonder if it's after Unit 2.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I guess, like, it didn't really track with me because how would it know that they had a Unit 2 to begin with?
Counter question. How did that last angel know that Tokyo 3 was located right in the exact spot when it started drilling?
No, I don't know. It's just that the plot continues to thicken when it comes to the motive behind these guys.
Thicker than a snicker, baby.
Thicker than a snicker.
Yeah, that's a good callback. I totally glossed over that, but
I mean, like, Misato acts like she doesn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's like, I wonder.
Right.
Which probably lends some credence to this whole idea that, you know, she knows a lot, but probably isn't getting the toppity top secret info.
Like even in the episode where she's building the giant gun, or where they're gonna snipe the cube on an axis. She says like, "Oh, it's drilling towards Tokyo 3." With the arrogance.
Yeah.
Like, but even then, she doesn't understand why it's doing that.
Yeah, just maybe that it's like smart enough to figure out that's where they are.
Yeah.
And so she's operating with that understanding of, okay, well, I just need to figure out a plan to, you know, thwart it, which, honestly, these past 3 episodes should just be Misato and the gang do crazy shit.
Yeah.
Because she comes up with her third, just like, magnum opus crazy plan.
Yeah.
And it's all based off Shinji going, you know, or Asuka going, how much line is left? And, you know, the captain of the ship goes, oh yeah, it's like 1,000 meters. And I think Shinji goes, it's just like fishing. And then Misato goes, fish. Like fishing. And so then, basically, as they're getting dragged around by the angel, because at this point, when they say this, the angel bit on to Asuka's Ava, and her and Shinji are just kind of chilling, going, oh.
Right.
I guess we're along for the ride.
Yeah.
And Misato goes, you know, try and steer it back this way, and we're going to shove sunken battleships in its mouth.
Right.
And so, sure enough, I mean, like...
I know.
And at that point, what other choice do they have? And even the captain's kind of like, okay, you know, if that's what we got to do. And so you get to see this cool moment where the angel is in position and Shinji and Asuka are kind of going, you know, open, 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 because they're trying to pry the mouth of the angel open. And you get to see this, like, this bar kind of go a little bit higher. And then the eyes go white on the Ava, and it's like overdrive mode.
Right.
And just jaw of life lifts up this angel's mouth. And then Misato goes, now! And then these 2 battleships just shove in its mouth.
Right.
Blow the thing up. Dope as hell. And what's cool too is I think this is the first time we've seen old traditional weaponry be effective against the angels.
Right. So is the idea that they shove these battleships in its mouth?
Yeah.
And then they have some sort of nuclear reactors in
them? Well, they have a way
up?
to remote detonate the weapons. Because Misato goes, are you able to, like, engage weapons on that? And he goes, yeah, but I don't know what good it'll do when, you know, like, we can't hurt the damn thing.
Right,
and then that's when Misato goes, light bulb, and
it's brain blast.
Yeah, we're going to shove him in its mouth.
Yeah, so they blow it up from the inside. Rolls.
And it just, chef kiss. You love to see it. Well, because, I don't know, it's just cool seeing Shinji, one, work so well with a new pilot, and, I don't know, it's just a nice little contrast of his past endeavors where episode 1 Shinji would have been freaking the fuck out.
I know. He had a ton of confidence in the mech with her.
Yeah.
Like, even though it wasn't his mech, he was still like...
Yeah, he was like grabbing the controls, and she was like, whoa, why are you getting on my lap? And he's like, I'm just trying to pilot this damn thing.
Right.
And she goes, you better watch out. Like,
yeah.
And he's like, I do not care.
I know. But it was just, it's cool to see growth once again with him, where at first, like you said, he was kind of the scared boy that was too afraid to even try to do anything.
Oh, yeah.
And now, even in the face of this girl who's all that in a bag of chips,
he's
taken the...
likes to think that she is.
Yeah, right. He's taken the reins from her.
Yeah.
You know, so I thought that was really cool.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and, like, I don't know. I just love seeing Misato's crazy-ass plans work out.
Yeah, they work out more often than not, turns out.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things where, you know, I don't know. She don't miss is kind of what I'm getting at here. But it's also cool to see, because, so they succeed, they blow up the angel, you know, and the captain is kind of like, okay, I get it. You know, you guys are important. fuck.
Yeah.
Like, and he's not wrong. I mean, it's because he gets to see firsthand just how truly powerless traditional weaponry is when it comes to fighting angels. I guess more so fighting angels in contrast to the Avas.
I can see why they would feel completely obsolete, though.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially those guys, they seem like they've been career Navy men.
Yep.
So, yeah, I can see why they would feel crappy about it, but hey, it's 2015.
Yep.
What are you going to do?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's cool, too. So, after they blow up the angel, Kaji takes this, aircraft up to the top of the aircraft carrier, and he goes, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
Take care of this here for me, Misato. And she's like, you dick. And he flies away, and you're like, huh, looks like he still hit that evac button, huh?
Yep.
Wonder what he's bringing over.
Yeah.
And the aftermath, of course, is, the fight, and they're pulling Ava 2 out of the ship. Ritsuko and Misato are kind of debriefing. And then you see Toji and Kensuke just roasting Shinji for his red little plug suit.
Yep.
But just a very well, and I realize we kind of flew through that scene, but it all happens so fast, and it's just a nice little, well executed moment,
Yeah. This episode, I think, lends well to this being a little bit fast, just because the episode goes fast.
It does.
I mean, you're introduced to a couple new characters. They have their own little kind of charming scene.
Yep.
And then it's literally just action. It's fight scene underwater for 15 minutes.
Pretty much, yeah. The last half of the episode is just, all right, we're fighting this damn thing.
Right.
But after all of the dust settles and all of this kind of resolution, it's like, yeah, we won. Kaji cuts to him, and he's talking to Gendo.
Right.
And he has the briefcase, and he goes, here it is, the first human, Adam.
Yeah, kind of weird.
And it looks just like this embryo, and it starts to raise. When I first watched it, I was like, Adam, Eve, God, angel. This is, I think, the first time, at least in my viewing, that you get a clear look into this idea of, the religious connotations that this show is kind of toying with. I mean, in the name Angel, I think you talked about it the first episode in, they're alien, the term angel, is that how they're describing these aliens?
Right, maybe they think that these are gods.
Yeah, but in talking about the first human and using the name Adam, I mean, who else, it's not Adam from down the street. I don't know. I just really enjoy the idea of how this show is now really incorporating kind of these religious undertones and playing with, and Misato even has that sentence last episode where she goes, there are, acts of man are always greater than an act of God.
Yep.
And I just, she says that, but then the very next episode is Kaji and Gendo going, yeah, this is the first human Adam. I don't know.
I feel
don't
really know how I feel about that.
As
in my brain hasn't quite wrapped around what the hell is in the briefcase in front of him.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what it is or how they would get that, or if they're using Adam as in first human as I don't know if
who is the first human?
I just have no.
Who is the first human?
I don't know.
In the Bible, chapter 1, Sega Genesis.
I understand that, but I just don't understand this.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to.
I feel like it toys with that concept, though, of, what were the first humans like?
Right, and I guess that's what I'm getting at.
That's more so what you're...
They're calling this human, and that looks slightly different.
Looks like a hedgehog.
Yes, it does. You could run into a dilemma at some point.
A little... But then, episode 6. Or wait, no, that's episode 3, A Hedgehog's Dilemma.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoops. Episode 6 was too recent for me to be screwing up like that. But... Yeah, I mean, we've kind of covered the whole episode. This might be a record time podcast, but I'm really curious. What are your thoughts on Asuka? Like,
yeah, she's cool, man. I'm excited to see more of her.
Okay.
She's a total bitch, but she knows she is, and she's running with that.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, I'm a badass. I'm gonna prove to you guys that I'm a badass, whether she is or not. She thinks she is, and so she wants to project that on everybody else. She's really into the heroics of being this Eva pilot in a way that Shinji and Rei are not at all. They seem more like victims to be Eva pilots.
Yeah.
She's like super excited. She was born for this. She's excited for this. She wants to keep doing this. I have a question for you. She keeps mentioning this idea of second children and third children.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they're talking about. She keeps calling Shinji the third children or something.
The third child.
Do they say child in yours? They straight up say children in my dub.
I could have sworn it was like, is Shinji the third child or something like that.
Meaning like third Eva pilot?
Yeah.
Well, see, that would make sense.
Yeah.
But they say children in mine, and I'm like, is that a...
Well, I think that's in reference, though, because, like, as Gendo says, the only people that can pilot the Eva units are... they have to be 14. And there's no real exception to that. So, the idea of that moniker is essentially another way of saying pilot, but it's telling that you caught that because that would mean then that the way it was described to Asuka... When you say, is that the third child? That sounds a little bit more important or kind of like...
Well, that's why I'm...
Like clandestine, to say like, oh, is that the third child?
Right.
And based on her interactions, right as we get introduced to her, it's apparent she really has a fixation on status, her own, like, abilities, and kind of wanting to ensure she has a place carved out for herself. So...
Yeah.
I'd imagine her making reference to that is very much, a symptom of kind of those things. But also, who knows how Nerve operates in Germany or, you know.
I think the other thing that I found interesting is at the end of the episode, before the embryo scene, Misato and Ritsuko have a conversation about how... Shinji and Asuka like synchronized with the mech at like a new record rate together.
Yeah. And Misato goes like, well, it was only for 7 seconds.
Yeah, it was like only for a little bit of time.
But Ritsuko's kind of like, we've never seen this before.
Yeah.
Like, this is... Because Misato goes, well, we got you data, right? And Ritsuko goes, yeah, you got us some real data. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And really, really lends credence, though, to just like... because this is outside of the first episode, one of the only times they've talked about that synchronization rate. They talked about it in Rei's episode.
Yep.
They talked about it in episode 1, but this had a really strong emphasis on it as being a gauge of how good of a pilot you could be.
Yep, like that's going to be critical to success. The sync rate.
So it's an interesting conversation to have, and I guess we'll see as the episodes continue.
Yeah.
What that means for Shinji and Co.
Yeah.
But until then, out of 10 mechs, what would you give this episode, Spencer?
I am going to give this episode 7.5 out of 10 mechs.
That's fair.
It's a solid episode. It's good. There's action. It's fun to watch. New character. I'm more excited to see where the discoveries go from this episode than I was necessarily about this episode.
Yeah, we've got a lot of breadcrumbs, episodes 7, 8.
Yeah.
That I feel, they drop a lot more questions than they do answers. Sure, we get well-defined meanings like, what was actually the second impact? But even then, we don't get the full story because it's obvious there's, they're cherry-picking.
Right.
We get, information about, oh, are you the third child? And all this stuff, but it's never elaborated in a way where you can go, oh, that's what it means.
Yeah.
They talk about, Ava Unit 6, Ava Unit 8, all of these future, projects, but then that's immediately clouded by Kaji going, yeah, here's Adam, the first human.
Yeah, like
and you're just kind of like, what? Huh?
Yeah. I still am caught off guard by it. I mean, the scope grew so much in these 2 episodes. Yeah. It went from Japan to this global
Mr.
issue.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
Woo, darling. It's, yeah.
Exactly.
Pitbull should have done that.
He should have.
When is he going to cover A Cruel Angel's Thesis?
I don't know. When's he going to do our HiroBabble theme song?
That's a good question. Well, those 2 guys we hired, I think we've got them on contract.
Right.
So.
Yeah. They're for at least another few episodes.
At least another few. But, yeah, I think 7.5 is a fair score. I'm going to give it... I was going to give it an 8, but I think I align more with your 7.5. I'm actually probably going to give it a 7.
Yeah.
That's still a good score. I think 7 is a good episode, though, because... And it's honestly purely because of Asuka and the character interactions that happen.
Yeah.
Action-wise, it's great. It's another Eva fight, but definitely kind of at a point where the episode just moves really fast.
Right.
And that's never a bad thing. I like good pacing, but this was, I think, probably one of the few episodes that really feels like throw a cinder block on the gas pedal because we're moving from point A to B in 20 minutes, and it's going to feel less than that. So.
And even with that, I feel like this is a can't-miss episode because there's huge reveals in this episode.
Well, yeah, and you also get to meet Asuka, who is huge in all of the marketing, and, when people talk about this show, they talk about, her as a pilot.
Right. Also, Kaji seems like he's going to be coming back into the picture as well.
I will say, too, though, Asuka is probably one of my favorite characters. As I've watched this series, her character arc is very, not only important, but just well executed. So I'm really curious to see your thoughts as we get farther in.
Yeah, dude.
But, hey, episode 8, HiroBabble.
In the books.
In the books, on the Spotifys, on the YouTubes, on the Apple Podcast. Leave us a review. On the YouTubes, the Facebooks, and the Twitters. Feel free to check us out on, your favorite platform. And thanks again for listening. We appreciate you.